Hey there, RNAers. I just want to send through a short video to give you some guidelines for setting your rules, which you're doing today, Sunday, with RNA kicking off tomorrow. I'm going to give you some guidelines how to set them, some guidelines on sticking to them, and also some examples of the sort of goals that you guys can have. So you can have as many or as few rules as you like. If you only want to have one goal, that's fine, but I would say no more than 6. Every day you will receive a score based on how many goals you've achieved. So let's say, for example, you have 5 rules, and at the end of the day, you achieve those 5. Your score will be 100%. If, however, you were to only achieve or meet 4 out of your 5 rules, your score would be 80%. Now, we, at the end of each week, have a cumulative total, both for you individually and for your team. So at the end of the 8-week RNA, you will have an average percentage. 100% if you score every day. If not, then that will drop below 100%. The aim being, obviously, to be at 100. So some guidelines that I've got here for you guys in terms of setting your rules. The rules that you set need to apply to every day. So you can't say, well, these rules only apply from Monday to Friday, or excluding my birthday. If you don't meet your rules on those days, you score less than 100%. So they must be consistent everyday rules. Every rule that you set should be targeted towards something that needs improving with your nutrition. So if you already do something, don't set a rule for that, because that's not creating a behavior change. So a good way to break down the rules is look at the things that you can improve in your daily nutrition and then assign a rule to each of those elements. A rule can be positive or negative, and either is fine for the purpose of RNA. So a positive rule might be, I will eat at least 4 types of vegetables every day, which is a positive rule. A negative rule may be, I will not eat sugar. So again, they're both perfectly applicable, things you want to include or things you want to not include. It's important that you guys define your rules well, so there's no room for interpretation there. So if you were to say, I will not eat sugar, it's not a very specific rule, because sugar is in fruit and in vegetables. So you might change that rule to say, I will not consume any type of refined sugar, or even be more specific and saying from XYZ sources. Make sure that you're only setting nutrition rules for this. Obviously, it's super important to be exercising and sleeping well and other things that are going to reduce stress and improve mental health, but RNA is not the place for those. So you can have those rules in your life, but they do not come in as part of your RNA rules. All right, so what I've done, guys, I've put together a list of about 10 sample rules that I think are going to be really good for you guys. Just to give you a little bit of context and give you some ideas, feel free to steal some of these. Again, as long as you don't have more than 6. So feel free to choose between these sort of elements, mix and match them, change them if you like. So let me read these rules to you that I've put down as samples. First one, I will eat 3 meals. Pretty simple, must eat 3 meals a day. Second rule, each meal will consist of some form of protein, some form of carbohydrates, and some form of fat. So that rule talks about what those 3 meals that you're having would contain. Third rule, no processed carbohydrates. This is a very broad category that will cover anything that is carbohydrate or sugar-based, which is not natural, which pretty much means anything unprocessed from carbohydrates will be fruit or vegetables or legumes. Rule 4, no grains, which covers all types of grains. If you wanted to make exceptions for something like quinoa, you would build an exception into that rule. So I will not eat any grains other than quinoa. So this is an example of an exception to a rule. Rule 5, no alcohol, pretty simple. Rule 6, at least 4 different types of vegetables daily. So again, now we're getting into a little bit more depth in terms of, we've said that we want fat, protein, and carbohydrates in every meal. We're now starting to talk about what the composition of the fats, protein, and in this case, the carbohydrates is. Rule number 7, sample for you guys. 60 grams of glucose and 30 grams of protein after any intense training session. You could take that further and define what an intense training session is. So maybe anything in my fitness file that lasts longer than 20 minutes, or anything in my fitness file that sends your heart rate high, a good one to put in. And again, if you haven't done an intense training session on that day, because the rule applies to every day, the way that the rule is framed, 60 grams of glucose, 30 grams of protein after any intense training session. If you haven't done an intense training session, therefore haven't had the protein and glucose, you have still met your rule because you didn't complete that intense training session. Rule number 8, 6 fish oil tablets, self-explanatory. And rule number 9, at least 3 liters of water. So again, you don't have to say at least 3 liters of water per day because there's the expectation there. The rules apply to every day. All right, so those are some examples you guys can have a play around with. They're a good sort of cross-section or representation of the rules we've seen in previous iterations of RNA. Like I said, add to them. If you've got any other ideas, you can get in touch with me for those. A word on sticking to and achieving your rules. Your rules are set 100% by you. I'll have some input and I'll offer some changes if we need to make them, just to make them fit into the RNA framework a little bit better, but you set them. If you break your rules, there's a lot more at stake than just, I had some sugar when I shouldn't have had. Now, obviously, we don't want that happening because we want you sticking with the rules that you've set, but from a health point of view, you having a little bit of sugar is not a bad thing if it's a one-off over 2 months. However, where the real damage is done is to your mental side. So as soon as you break one of your rules, and it's a rule and it's a promise that you set to yourself, basically what you're doing is giving yourself permission to break a commitment. Not a commitment to anyone else, but more seriously, a commitment to yourself. So it's actually starting to condition your mind to know that you can back down on those self-made commitments. And as soon as you break one of these commitments, it opens the floodgates and it really damages your grit or your stick-to-itness. It really compromises those things. So you breaking a rule has much higher stakes than just the physical effect of you not sticking to your nutrition plan. So don't get into the habit of letting yourself down. It's a dangerous habit to get into. What we find is that RNA plays a huge role in helping me, you, and the other people within RNA to determine your values. If you value short-term gratification from a sugar hit or from a type of food that you shouldn't be eating, or the inconvenience of having a food that you should be having, if you value that short-term gratification more than you value the benefits of RNA, of achieving your goals, whether it be improved happiness, improved physical performance, improved body composition, or other things, if you value that instant gratification more than the reward or the return at the end of achieving your goals, it tells me that your value is off and your value systems need to be addressed. If, however, you value the outcomes and the benefits and the end of this process more than that small amount of instant gratification, it tells me that they're in check. Okay, so if you're going to break one of your rules, before you're about to do it, you need to say to yourself, do I value this short-term gratification more? Or is it more important to me that I achieve my long-term goals and I improve my grit and stick-to-itness? A good thing to ask yourself whenever you're about to break a rule, just to keep yourself in check. So where do we go from here? Guys, you need to go to the Range of Motion website. I will make sure that this link is posted in the group. You need to go to the website and submit your rules, up to 6 of them. The link is rangeofmotion.net.au/content/rule-submission. That's /content/RNA-rule-submission. You can enter up to 6 goals there. Once I've achieved your submission, which must be done before tonight, today being Sunday, once I've received it, if there are any changes that I suggest you make, I will get in touch with you today to make those changes. If there are no changes there to be made, those rules will be made official. tonight by having them posted in RNA. All the best, guys. I hope that will help you to both set some good habits, some healthy habits, and also give you some ideas of the sort of rules that you should be setting. If you have any questions, please post them in comments below and get those rules through to me. Thanks, guys. Look forward to getting this RNA kicked off.